Going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to read from my latest book. Now don't all turn off. I'm going to try and make this as interesting and as different as possible. First off, it's called My Top Secret History. It's about as autobiographical as you're going to get, and it's a spy story. That's interesting, eh? Now, what I'm going to do is ask you to sit down quietly, make yourself comfortable, listen to the first bit of it, and I'm going to make an interesting video out of it so it's not too boring. And I want to find out what you think about it. Is it good? Is it crap? Should I get rid of it now? Should I start burning it? What should I do with this? Or should I continue with it? And yeah, look, it'd be good to know, because when you're writing, you're in a vacuum, really. You're sort of stuck in this room by yourself. And, you know, sometimes you can't even see whether something's good or not. So let me know, please. That'd be brilliant. Okay, so I hope you're all sitting comfortably. If not, please do get the popcorn and whatever drink takes your fancy. And it's only a short read, but I hope you find it interesting. Thank you.
When I was born, it started to snow. I was 3 when I tripped on the pavement, fell on my nose and saw blood for the first time. After a while, I realised it was mine. When I was 4, I stuffed newspaper into the storage bin under the seat of my dad's Vespa and set fire to it. I watched the smoke curl out of the shed, and then the flames caught the wood and the glass windows exploded. Dad came running out and looked at the shed and looked at me, and then looked at the shed again as it turned into a blazing funeral pyre. We both ducked when the Vespa's fuel tank exploded, sending half the scooter whining over next door's fence. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I did both, one after the other. Dad didn't even shout. I don't think he could find the words he needed. One day I wired up a plug, popped it into the electric socket, switched the power on and fired up the radio. When Dad came home, he looked at me wild-eyed and stared at the plug and whispered, "Jesus," and then slowly sat down on the floor with me and asked, "How did you know which wire went where?" I was 5 3/4. I had no idea what he was talking about. Sometimes I'd lie on my bed and watch the light move slowly around the ceiling until the shadows of the evening made the room smoky blue, and a deep hush descended, and birdsong chirruped here and there, then stopped. A soft peal of church bells and a dog barking in the next county, and I'd know it was Sunday night and all was well in my child's world, and as I drop off to sleep, Mum kisses me sweetly before I tumble into my dreams. I suck on a player's number 6 and make the end glow. I watch the smoke curl ghost-like through the overhanging branches past the blackbird's nest, where fledglings softly play flute in the pre-dawn. Down here against the old dry stone wall, with the loose stone, where choir boys hide the packet of fags, usually number 6, sometimes Embassy Red, and if someone is flush, Embassy Regal. We're invisible, or so we thought when we were 11. I smoke down to the filter and get that acrid taste, but I don't mind. I went through several boxes of Dad's mannequin cigars over 2 months, and they scorched my throat like the devil. Every Christmas, the granny in Scarborough sent him a couple of packs. He told her he'd stopped smoking years ago, but they kept coming. "You just can't tell old people," he grumbled, and put them in the top of the wardrobe, where I found them one day as I sneaked around the house. A friend of mine, Keith, who is podgy and thinks he's a ladies' man with his swept-over hair, had access to numerous lighters, thanks to his mum working in an old people's home in Great Glen, who filched them as soon as anyone died. Everyone smoked back then. This would have been 1969, but I was the only kid who lit up with a solid gold DuPont. Not that I knew it was worth loads back then. It was kind of inconvenient, to be honest, heavy and dragging my shorts down on one side. A couple of the stone blocks in the wall weren't flush, and I clambered up and over the wall easily into the dark graveyard. St. Wilfrid's sits on raised ground. It's been there since the Normans built it. Look southwest, you'll see most of Kibworth Beecham spread out below you. Swivel and you're gazing at Kibworth Harcourt. Gravestones in neatly trimmed grass with yellow daffodils bookend lives. I walk between lime trees. The smell of fresh earth greets me this cool spring morning, and I stop and look down into a freshly dug grave. I can't help it, I shiver. Every boy knows it's 6 feet, and this morning it's too dark to see the bottom. Anything could be down there. I shiver some more, but this time I'm pretty sure it's because it's cold. My misty breath is telling me that too. I let myself in through the Beecham double doors, opening the massive left one with effort. It makes no noise, and I smell church as I slip inside. St. Wilfrid's is the only one in Britain with 2 identical sets of giant doors either side of the building. Right for the Harcourts, the left for Norman neighbours and rivals, La Famille Beauchamp. Keeping up appearances was big back then. Both families had to enter the church at the same time, or I imagine it was désastreux majeur. I know, enough of the French. I'm in the choir. Royal blue cassock, white surplice, frilled white starched collar, but every other weekday I'm here at dawn. As server, I help the Reverend Dennis Scott minister to his flock at the first service of the day, though there's rarely anyone here at 6 a.m. The Lord does expect, though, so we both turn up. The church is quiet as a Monday, which it is, and I take the stone steps up to the vestry, choosing from the peg with my name on a piece of sellotape paper torn from a lined schoolbook, the blood-red cassock, which will come in very handy. I slip that over my head. It floats down over my jeans to my shoes. The white surplice next, then starch plain white collar with tails, which pinches when I grimace and push the button through. I brush my hair roughly with both hands. I don't see the Rev as I walk alone between the 2 rows of wooden benches, trailing my hand along the tops gleaming from constant touch. People have walked these stones for close to 800 years. I get to the altar through the silent chancel, where every Sunday you'll find the choir in 2 stalls, young boys like me in the first, the men behind. We're side on to the congregation, and across the chancel we face a massive organ. Organist Benjamin Barnes is maybe 30, same sort of age as the Rev, so back then they seemed really old to me. Mr. Barnes is flamboyant and wears bright paisley shirts, unbuttoned it seems almost to the navel. His chest hair is as luxuriant as a beaver, I mean the river-dwelling rodent. He has 1960s hair and bushy mutton chops, and we all think he looks like a badger as he hunches over the keys. He drives a Sunbeam Lotus in black with a single gold stripe and noisy muffler. I bow before the altar, then step up, turn left and softly open the door to the vicar's room. I wrinkle my nose. I smell copper. Reverend Scott looks surprised. So surprised his eyes are bulging. But then you would, with someone on top of you, with his hands tight round your throat. I must look like a cartoon character, mouth open, me eyes on stalks. The Rev is choking. "Mr. Walker," I say. The man swivels his head and looks at me as if I'm the mad one. The Rev's trying to say something, and I see a line of red then, a streak, like Keith's sister Trace on occasion has in her blonde hair, but it's in his sandy hair. I don't know what happens, and I probably never will, but for the first time it kicks in. I am cold, I am clear, I am strong, I'm a blade of ice. Well, I just added the ice thing to be fair, but anyway, I'm all action. I grab the nearest solid object. The heavy silver cross with Christ crucified on the square base glimmers in the light. I swing, and its weight, more than my puny 11-year-old muscles, brings it smashing down into the back of Mr. Walker's skull. Christ's left hand sinks into the wrist, and blood fountains over my red cassock. Mr. Walker turns and stares at me, rears up and lunges, silver cross still embedded in his head, blood still spurting all over his face. Out of the corner of my eye I see movement as he looms above me like a giant. Mr. Barnes slips a pink silk tie with foxes around Mr. Walker's neck and pulls tight. I've never seen a face go purple. Mr. Walker scrabbles at the tie with his hands, but it's no good. Mr. Barnes is strong. Mr. Barnes is silent. Mr. Walker slides down to the flagstones. Blood weeps and spreads from his head wound. I look at Mr. Barnes in shock. I've never seen him with a tie before.